Hello, podcast listeners.
Welcome to I Do Podcast. Thanks for joining us on this lovely Wednesday or whatever other day you're listening to it.
Yeah, we're recording this on a Wednesday, but you'll be listening to this in the future. Who knows what day it'll be, but hopefully it's a good day for you.
Yeah.
And hopefully today's show will give you a lot of great advice. I know it was great for us. We talked with Dr. Tim Cole, and he is an associate professor at DePaul University, where for over 20 years he has studied relationships and more recently, and particularly how differences in people's need for intimacy can lead to a betrayal of trust. And he is also an author of the book, Broken Trust, Overcoming an Intimate Betrayal. And today we talk about how to increase intimacy in a relationship. And it's definitely something we've talked about before, but it's a super important part of being together with someone else.
Yeah, we really focused on a lot about understanding your attachment style and your partner's attachment style because, we've talked about this briefly, but I really didn't realize that your attachment style had that much of effect on how you perceive intimacy in your relationship. So really understanding your attachment style really can help you and your relationship with your partner.
Yeah. And one of the other things we've talked about before, but like trying new things, it's something Sarah and I, 2018, we got to do because we get stuck in our routine. We've been together for like 8 years now. We know each other 9 years, whatever.
Whatever.
Oh, okay. I mean, you value the number more than I do, but
I know
a while.
Just giving you a hard time.
And we need to try new things. So that is something, it's like so cliche, but just do it. Put it on the calendar. Listen to what Tim has to say about it and all the other great tips that he gives. Some of them are definitely new. We haven't heard before on the show and a great way to help your relationship. So also, listen towards the end of the interview where we give a sneak peek at an exciting new podcast that we have in the works. So stay tuned for that little
in the works
teaser. Yeah.
It won't be out for a while, but it'll give you a good little hint of what's coming.
Yeah, we're excited about that. So check that out. And as always, we love hearing from you guys. We appreciate those 5-star reviews. Subscribing on iTunes definitely helps us out. And we love you guys. We appreciate you listening and enjoy today's show.
Today's show is sponsored by Finch. Finch brings your stories, feelings, and memories to life through one-of-a-kind songs from scratch. I just got my song back that I wrote for Chase, and we'll be playing it later in the show because it is so good. Finch's custom songs are the perfect gift for Valentine's Day, and as a special offer, you guys can get 10% off by visiting songfinch.com. That's Finch, songfinch.com, and entering the promo code I Do. Hi, Tim. Welcome to the show. Thanks for joining us today.
Thank you for having me. Happy to be here.
So we've given our listeners a little overview, told them about your work. Why don't you tell us why you enjoy helping people improve their relationships?
And again, it goes back to my childhood. As a child, I was one of those people who never stopped asking why. And in college, I was a mechanical engineer, and I took a class on human communication. And from that class, I was just overwhelmed about the complexity of our relationships and how important they are. And it was much more interesting than calculus problems. And so ever since then, I've just been studying relationships, trying to share what we know about relationships with other people, help people manage their relationships better. And so I'm really just curious, and I like to share with other people what we know.
That's quite the switch from mechanical engineer to the work that you're doing now.
It's really not in some ways, because it's there's a lot of logic, there's a lot of statistics, a lot of analysis. So in some ways, it's very similar. It's just the relationships are much more complex engineering problem, surprisingly.
Yeah, it's interesting. Well, today's topic is one that certainly a problem in a lot of relationships, or just something that could be made better. And we're going to zero in and talk about intimacy. And why don't we start by having you define intimacy? We've definitely talked about it on the show before, but we're going to do a bit of a deep dive and see if we can help our listeners and Sarah and I understand it better and the steps to create more in our relationship.
Okay, that's a great question, and it's a complicated question. So first off, intimacy is mutual knowledge, a mutual understanding of each other. And so that means I get you and you get me, and we understand that we understand each other. And you do this by having shared experiences, a lot of self-disclosure, spending time together. Intimacy also involves feelings of closeness and concern and respect and value. And so again, I value you, I respect you, I love you. Another component of intimacy is that positive feelings. But then there's also this mutual influence. So intimacy also involves, what I do in my life impacts what goes on in your life and vice versa. Our lives have become interdependent. We're kind of connected to each other. And so again, there's that knowledge component, that closeness, those feelings of closeness, but also that direct impact on each other's lives.
And one of the things that we hear about often, and we've found in our relationship a little bit, is as the relationship grows, it kind of, things can stagnate, and we might really know each other. It's almost we know each other so well that it's a detriment that we don't do the things we do early in the relationship. So it's almost like too much intimacy in one area of just knowing each other. We might not continue to try to know each other, and we're constantly evolving humans. So when Sarah and I met 8 years ago, we're different people now. So I think it's like this ongoing process. Can you talk a little bit more about that?
Yeah, so you hit the nail on the head. What happens is that when you first meet someone, it's really fun because you're learning so much about each other. And that discovery process, you're learning novel things, exciting things. And so that people tend to be very happy. It releases a lot of dopamine in that process. At a certain point, though, once you kind of know everything about each other, know your partner inside and out, it's hard to have that release of dopamine or happiness or satisfaction that comes from that process of getting to know another person. And so it's really important when you're in that phase, it kind of does get stagnant. What the research shows is that you need to switch because you're no longer going to get a lot of high or euphoria off of getting to know each other. What you have to do is you have to start doing activities together that are outside your comfort zone. So maybe you go skydiving together, you take a vacation together. In other words, you have to keep that euphoria and that high going by doing activities that trigger the same release of dopamine that you got when you first met each other. And that's what really successful couples do, is they're really good at finding ways to do exciting things together that are a bit outside their comfort zone, which then gives them a lot to talk about and rekindle those feelings of closeness, novelty, and connection.
That's a great point. We've heard it before. Maybe this time Sarah and I can actually take it to heart, because I think we're thinking the same thing. Is we don't really do that in just personally in our relationship. I think both of our personalities were very kind of just like we live a pretty exciting life. Like right now we're in Costa Rica, we've traveled, but that's just kind of almost like what we're used to. And then, so we don't really get out of our comfort zone. We're kind of homebodies. We're fine with staying home, watching Netflix. We all have a 2-year-old too, so it makes it harder. But I think that's something, Sarah, what do you think? 2018, we make an effort.
Yeah. The first thing when you said skydiving, I was like, okay, I don't want to do that, but I want to do, cage swimming with sharks.
Oh,
Would
yeah?
you do that?
Cage diving? Let's do it.
That's pretty crazy for me.
And so the planning of those activities, the doing of those activities, the talking about it afterwards, again, you're going to feel like you're madly, newly in love with each other. And what you said is what most couples do. They get stuck in a rut because they like habits. And so couples go to the same restaurant, they order the same dinner, they sit there, and there's not a lot of novelty going on. So it's really important to do those novel, exciting activities that, again, you haven't done before.
All right. Well, that's news to me. Cage diving. Sarah wants to do it. So I'm already excited, and I'm already feeling, that the juice is going, like exciting.
Yep. And that's exactly what successful couples do. They manage to keep doing that.
Now, are there any couples that struggle with, I know in your article you wrote that there will be times where couples will struggle because they have different attachments, styles, and that can affect their intimacy in their relationship. So do you think you can maybe talk a little bit about that? Because I think that can maybe help couples who have an issue with intimacy just because they are different when it comes to how they see intimacy in their relationship.
Yeah, so you ask a really great question. When it comes to romantic relationships in particular, people have different needs and different comfort levels with intimacy. They have different definitions of what intimacy involves or entails or means. And so it's really important to know your attachment style. So people have different styles of attachment. People with a secure style of attachment are very comfortable getting close to a partner, very comfortable being dependent on a partner, very comfortable trusting a partner. They kind of see the best in their partner and expect their partner to be there for them, but they're also very good at taking care of their partner as well. People who have an anxious style of attachment, on the other hand, tend to worry more that their partner doesn't care for them as much. And they have some insecurities about being loved. And so because of these insecurities about being loved, they secretly or not so secretly crave a lot of intimacy and closeness and reassurance. And again, they just want to know that their partner will be there for them. So they really seek out intimate activities, intimate behaviors. They really want a lot of intimacy. They crave intimacy. And then on the other hand, you have people who have an avoidant style of attachment who are very uncomfortable with intimacy in their relationship. And to them, they try to avoid intimacy or dismiss or deny that they need intimacy. Very uncomfortable making commitments. Very uncomfortable when a partner becomes too dependent or needy on them. And so the simple act of watching TV together, so two couples watching Netflix together at night, for someone with an anxious style of attachment, that may not feel very intimate. For someone with an avoidant style of attachment, that may feel overly intimate. And so relationships really get into problems when you don't get the intimacy you need, want, and desire. And that stems back to attachment styles and understanding your attachment style as well as your partner's attachment style.
We've definitely talked about attachment styles before on the show, so some of our listeners might be familiar with it, but it's even if you are, it's always good to have a refresher and to try to examine what your attachment style is, and it can help you deal with some of these conflicts. And I think one of the important things to realize is that like nothing is wrong with you if you're an anxious attachment style, because these things are formed when we are developing as a child, right?
Yes, yeah. Your attachment style forms in the first 3 years of life based on interaction with your caregiver. And so again, your attachment style, though, as an adult, influences how you respond to intimacy in your relationship. And it influences so many behaviors, from how you experience jealousy, how you fall in love, how you engage in self-disclosure, how you're likely to engage in conflict, whether you're likely to cheat on your partner or not. Even my own research shows your attachment style influences how you watch TV. So again, your attachment style has a lot to do with how you connect to others and what you need. And there's nothing wrong with having an anxious style of attachment. What is helpful is to be very clear about what your expectations are and find someone who can meet those expectations, or at least talk to you about your expectations and have those honest discussions about having your needs met.
So if somebody is relating to having an anxious or avoidant attachment style, they shouldn't be sitting there saying, oh, how do I become more secure? Or do they? Do they try to work to change their attachment style, or is it just something that they need to work on everything else around that?
Oh, no. It's a great question. It's one of the questions that comes up all the time in my classes. And what I recommend to students and other people I talk to is that you can change your attachment style, and it's not impossible to do it. It requires, some effort and some work. And the key things to do this are to have those discussions with your partner where you tell your partner, look, I may have an anxious style of attachment. That means I may reach out to you a lot. I may need a lot of assurance to you a lot. If you could be available and responsive to me over time, I will become more secure. So the research shows having a partner who is available and responsive to your needs makes you more secure. Also, if it's really causing problems in your relationship, therapy is very effective at helping people change their attachment style and have a better life in their relationship, more happiness and satisfaction. Also, research is showing that mindful meditation helps people manage their emotions better, express their feelings better, support their partners better. And so there's a lot of things you can do if you're not satisfied with the issues your attachment style is creating in your relationship. It's not doomed. Actually, it's very hopeful. There's a lot of things you can do. Now, again, this isn't going to change overnight, but it's something you can work on, especially if you have a partner who's very cooperative, understanding, and willing to work with you.
So it seems like the key is to first recognize which attachment style you are, and just through your description, I think a lot of it will be pretty clear if to our listeners, where you fall on this, but then to open up that dialogue with your partner, and like you mentioned, like that can be changed, but if it's not really addressed, it will be hard for your partner to maybe know. They can't read your mind. Yeah, they can't read your mind. And if it's not really addressed, what people tend to do is they tend to engage in a lot of behaviors that reinforce their attachment style. So what people will do is, an anxious person may reach out to their partner a lot, and their partner will become frustrated by this and start to maybe not call them back as quickly, ignore them, or dismiss them. And that just reinforces their anxiety. So it's really critical to be aware of both you and your partner's attachment style, and really have those honest conversations about how you can work through this. And again, the research is clear that you can, as a couple, change and become more secure over time by having those conversations, those interactions, that understanding. And again, really being responsive and compassionate towards a partner can work wonders.
Before we continue on, we're going to take a short break to tell you about our sponsors. But first, we're going to play a song that I had written for Chase.
It was the last night of the year. I saw you saunter by and my mission was clear. I just had to meet that sexy surfer man. Then I thought you might be running with a big bad bunch when I saw your brother reeling from a soccer punch. But I'm pleased to say you're no meaner than a lamb. It wasn't long before I knew I'd be climbing.
That is so cool. That is actually the second time we've listened to it. We just got the song back, and it sounds like we were like, man, this could be on the Billboard Top 100 maybe.
Jack Johnson, right? Could be singing it.
Jack Johnson vibe. But it's so cool because it tells the story of how we met, and she puts in all these cute little details, some of them not so cute, as Sarah doesn't like when I tell the story, my brother getting sucker punched, but she got that in there and it still sounds cute. So
I knew it'd make you laugh, and we always joke that instead of telling people how we met, it always turns into how his brother got sucker punched on the night we met.
Yes. So it's in the song, but it's just tells a really cool, beautiful story of how we met and then like our life and then going forward, chasing waves. I'll spare you my singing, but the
very
chorus
catchy.
is catchy.
I like have it stuck in my head now. I'm gonna be singing it for the rest of the day.
Oh, it's super cool, and it's easy to do this, and I think it just makes an amazing and heartfelt gift.
Yeah, it was super easy. I went onto the website. It just asked for what type of occasion this is for, and I was just doing it just because. And it just asked a story of us, gives you questions to answer, suggestions to help you write your song. And then it asks the type of genre you want your song to be, the type of vocalist, and then it puts it all together for you. And 7 days later, you have this amazing, one-of-a-kind song. So if you're looking for an amazing gift this Valentine's Day for your honey, then you should really check out Finch. They're giving a 10% discount for our listeners. So you can go to songfinch.com and enter the promo code IDO to get 10% off your song for your honey for Valentine's Day.
Yeah, and they have a songwriting community of over 250 professional musicians, and it's growing every week. So these guys are good. You hear the girl singing our song, like
she's
that
amazing.
Could be on the radio.
Yeah.
You know, is in the lyrics. It's all really beautiful. Even if you you want the song, but like just the lyrics were amazing, and so really love it. Valentine's Day coming up, guys that are listening, it's kind of a no-brainer. I mean, your girlfriend or wife is going to love this, and girls, I really loved and enjoyed hearing it.
Yeah, so go on over to songfinch.com and enter the promo code IDO and get 10% off your song.
And all of this is really about better communication, better relationship, and more intimacy. And we mentioned earlier trying novel things as a way to create more intimacy. So once we understand our partner's attachment style, we're communicating in a way that's going to be beneficial to them if they're anxious or avoidant, make them feel more secure. What else can we do in a relationship to try to create more intimacy when it's outside of that first year? Now we know everything about each other. We're trying new things. Are there any other things that we can do?
Well, one thing I recommend that all couples do is it's a really simple thing. And what I tell couples, check in with each other on a daily basis. And what that really means is just put your phone away, that email away, turn the TV off, and face-to-face, just ask your partner, hey, how are you doing? I care about you. I want to know how you're doing. And that simple checking in on a daily basis, it really does make people feel close, connected. It makes partners feel valued, loved, and respected. But it also gives the opportunity for issues to come up. So many couples get in the habit of cross-talking where they talk past each other, or they ask, hey, how was your day? And then they don't listen to the response or go, oh, that was great. And so you want to get out of those habits and just really try to check in and have a moment or two. And it doesn't have to be serious. It doesn't have to be heavy. But just really checking in with each other and trying to make each other feel understood and cared for. And again, issues may come out of those moments that allow you to address problems before they fester. And that can create more intimacy and closeness in a relationship. And it really does show your partner how much you care about them.
That's a great tip. And like so many of the things we talk about on the show, it's not rocket science. It's not, hey, check in with your partner. It's not like some crazy thing that you research for 50 years to try to find out. But that's what makes relationships so hard and why they always require work and mindfulness and attentiveness. Yeah. And especially now with all the distractions and our phones, that it's hard to do that sometimes. But if you're mindful, and I know like we don't do that all the time, like we have this show, we try to implement things, but I think that's something, Sarah, that we should do. Is like literally and deliberately say like, hey, how are things going? And then almost more importantly, listening attentively to the response and not just formulating a quick fix or whatever as they're telling you what's going on, right? like we tend to do.
Yeah, and it's not, you hit the nail on the head. That's exactly what couples should do. And again, it's not brain science, but there's a lot of research behind it. And so at a physiological level, there's a whole body of research called interpersonal neurobiology. When someone gives you that kind of attention, it makes you feel loved, connected, you resonate together, and it produces all these physiological and cognitive and emotional benefits. So, I mean, there is kind of like rocket science behind doing that. But again, it's so simple, but couples don't do it. And it's one easy way to really connect and address issues as they come up, or just, again, show your partner that you really care about them.
It's so true, because when you're able to sit down and have that one-on-one undivided attention with your partner, not only are you able to share, things that went on that day, but allows you to feel closer to your partner and more connected, because you're able to share maybe the small things that happened that day that you normally wouldn't share. Yeah.
And that creates that intimacy, that mutual knowledge, that understanding, that concern. And it's a really easy thing to do. And it's shocking how many people don't do it. And again, you're right. Technology, distractions, modern day life, we don't take the time to attend to each other. In just a few minutes, check in with each other.
Would you say a majority of couples don't do that?
Yeah, a majority of couples don't do that. We're habitual creatures. So, after a long, hectic day at work, how was your day? I'm not going to listen, right? I'm distracted by something else. And all of a sudden, you don't feel close. You don't feel that connection. You don't feel that your partner's listening to you. So your stories about your day get shorter because you realize at a non-conscious level, no one's really listening. And so what you want to do is break out of those habits. And again, it is rocket science and it's not rocket science, but it does help.
I had an old coworker that not every time, but pretty often when someone would say, "Hey, how you doing?" they'd respond with, "Oh, bad." And then half the time, most people wouldn't even be like, "Oh, why are you having a bad day?" Because, they're just not even really paying attention. And so he always used to do that kind of to see, like, if people are really paying attention.
Yeah. And a lot of times you go through life mindlessly, right? You're not paying attention. You're not really present. You're not really focused. And if you're going to be focused, pay attention, the most important part of your day to do that is with your partner. Because at the end of the day, nothing is more important than the relationships you have and being able to manage those effectively.
Yeah, you mentioned the word presence, and it's not easy to do. And I would encourage our listeners to do this exercise, but think about when you've met a person, and hopefully we all have, or maybe it's your partner, who looks you in the eyes when you're talking. Like, this might be just like not even someone you know that well, like an acquaintance. Because I'm just thinking about this, one of Sarah's friends who said the other day, I was with this lady and she was just amazing and she had this presence. But to me, she was probably just looking her in the eye, listening attentively. We can read all these nonverbal communications that someone is giving. And I think more often than not, we are not there. We're thinking about something else or whatever it is, but we're not attentively listening and in dialogue with a person. Certainly not an acquaintance or a friend, and then not even our most romantic and intimate partners. So it's just such a powerful thing to be able to do attentively.
Yeah, and you hit the nail on the head. Again, you can do this with someone that you meet on the street, an acquaintance, a friend, a loved one. And there's a lot of research on this process that you mentioned, being present, attentive, showing concern. And it's called positivity resonance. There's a great book for non-academics on it. It's called Love 2.0 by Barbara Fredrickson. And again, this is one of the most vital, important things in your life, is to foster those connections with other people. And at a physiological level, the weird things that happen in terms of your brain waves, in terms of your heart rate, in terms of your respiration, when you have those genuine present interactions with other people, it provides more health benefits than exercising, quitting smoking, doing all those things we're supposed to do. Fostering those connections with other people really do influence your mind and body.
That's cool. I'm going to have to check out that book, Love 2.0. And as a parent to a 2-year-old, this is also something that I think Sarah and I are trying to implement more, is that undivided presence with them, and so that they're feeling those vibrations, and just to try to really appreciate, like, it's so cliche, but the time flies, and it does already. I can't believe she's 2, but like, to really cherish those moments. There's a great Stoic quote. I'm going to butcher it, and I'm not even going to try to quote it, but it's something that well, I will try, but along the lines of, like, life is not too short. We just don't value time correctly. We don't spend the time correctly.
That's a great quote, and I'm going to actually lift that and kind of butcher it too and use that. I teach a class on mindfulness as well. And so, again, we go through our lives not being present. And so I applaud you for the work you're doing with your daughter, being present, being available, being responsive to her. That's, again, how you develop a secure style of attachment that will help her later in life in her adult relationships.
Yeah, we definitely, and when we had our daughter and we were doing this podcast, and so much of how we relate is formed early, as a parent, like, we're just like kind of hyper aware of these things, because we want her to relate well when she grows up.
And I applaud you for that. There's so many people who don't take the time. So there's thousands of scholars studying relationships. There's this huge body of knowledge that's fairly consistent. And people, in the most important aspects of their lives, how they connect with others and how they form relationships, don't make use of this body of knowledge that can really help you improve your life. So, what you're doing is great, and getting this information out there to other people is fantastic. And again, I totally applaud what you're doing.
No, thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, we're just interviewing the experts like yourself, and we do feel it is an interesting thing. You hit it on the head of it's such an important aspect of our life, but it seems like this subcategory of things that are important to talk about, like in Western culture, when it's like really the most important thing. And along that same vein, I wanted to ask you, so you're a professor at DePaul, and you mentioned you teach a class on mindfulness. Do you teach any classes on relationships?
Oh, yeah. I teach a class on attachment. I teach a class on close relationships. I actually teach a class on deception and infidelity. I teach a class on how evolution influences our interactions with other people. So I teach a wide range of classes that focus on how people manage their relationships and the problems that come up. And as you said, the most important thing you're going to do in life is manage your relationships. It's also one of the most difficult things you're ever going to do in life. And so, as someone who's curious about things, you're just naturally drawn to this topic. And again, sharing is the best part of the job. That's interesting. All those classes you teach, are they pretty well received by the students that they're... Yeah. The students love the classes. And again, the students are always like, oh, why didn't we get this in high school? Why didn't we get this younger? I mean, why are we waiting until college to teach it? And, I had the same experience as an undergrad. I was like, wait, there's this whole body of research on relationships that doesn't get disseminated. And for the most part, academics like to talk to other academics because we have our jargon, we have our mutual knowledge, we know how to do that. So it's very hard to translate some of this knowledge and research to an outside audience, which is what I'm trying to do a little bit more now that I'm mid-career. I don't have to focus as much on advancing my personal career, but trying to help other people make use of this and improve their lives. I think that is a great thing, and we definitely applaud you, and we thank you for coming on and allowing us to definitely share this with a few thousand of people that are going to find a lot of value.
Yeah. Are those classes new to the curriculum, or they've been at the school for a while?
Well, I have been teaching at DePaul for 20 years. I created those classes. Mindfulness is the most recent one I've added just because, the research on mindfulness shows it's one of the quickest ways to improve so many facets of your life, including your relationships. But I've slowly added them over the curriculum, and some of them are at the undergraduate level. The attachment class is at the graduate level. But students are like, once they have a class like that where they can see and they can walk outside the class immediately and start applying theories and concepts, they're like, this is amazing.
Yeah.
And I'm like, it's a lot better than solving calculus problems all day.
Yeah. That's like the classic math is like, I'm never going to use this. It's like, well, you can just take this right outside, literally while you're in class, you can use it probably if you're interacting with anyone. And now we just got to figure out how to get it into preschools, because like you said, the earlier, the better. Maybe that'll be a mission that we can somehow tackle.
Yeah. And it would be great if we, did value this kind of knowledge more and did, disseminate it in ways that it's really accessible and really useful. And again, that's how I hope to spend the second half of my career, is really reaching out to people and trying to help them, manage their lives better.
I do have one more question before we wrap up, and it kind of goes back to the attachment style with children. And you mentioned being mindful and present with your child is a great way to help their attachment style. But do you have any other tips to help now that Stella's 2.5, almost 3? We have like 6 months to get in, everything. No, I'm kidding.
So and again, what the research shows is that being available. So if your child knows you're there, right? Being responsive. So when they are hurt, sad, angry, confused, hungry, you respond to their needs appropriately. But the third factor, and this one doesn't get enough attention, is allowing your child to explore. And so allowing them to go off, not completely off, but allowing them to go make mistakes. Allowing them to hit their head when you see it's going to happen. And you're like, I could prevent it. But, Gerard Diamond, a very famous anthropologist, says that cultures where people are the most secure as adults are where they were allowed to explore as children, but they knew the minute they got in trouble that their caregivers would be available and responsive. And so a lot of times in the U.S. right now, we have overly protective parents who don't encourage exploration, don't encourage their kids to make mistakes, try to prevent their kids from making mistakes. And it's through that mistake-making process that kids learn, I'm going to be okay. I'm gaining skills. I can handle what life throws at me. And so they build a lot of confidence that way. So again, the exploration is a critical component of that, which doesn't get talked about enough.
That's a great point. I'm definitely the cautious parent. So we let Stella explore, but it's something to keep in mind. And this has been really interesting at the end, the whole conversation, but we actually have a kids podcast that's going to be launching. But for this very reason, it won't be focused just on relationships. It'll be everything from nutrition to, how to help your kid form a secure attachment style. But we'll have to have you back on and we'll do more of a deep dive into it. But all the information today, and that was a little sneak peek for our listeners. It'll be coming in a few months that we'll be launching the podcast. So that's exciting. But all the information you gave us today is really valuable, from applying it to intimate relationships to helping raise a kid with a secure attachment. So why don't we wrap up, have you tell our listeners where they can find you online, and then we'll say goodbye.
All right. So the best way to get a hold of me online is I have a book for couples who are dealing with a betrayal in their relationship. It's called Broken Trust. You can also reach me through DePaul University, the College of Communication. And again, I'm available either way, you can email me at either place. And I'm always willing to help out.
Excellent. Well, all those links will be on your show notes page on our website at ID Podcast, so our listeners know to go there to check them out. And again, thank you so much for taking the time to come on the show and sharing your knowledge.
All right. Thank you.
We hope you guys enjoyed today's episode. As always, you can find the links from today's show on our website at idopodcast.com. And while you're on the website, we encourage that you check out some of the free resources that we've created for you guys. One of those is the 14-day Happy Couple Challenge. And we send you an email every day for 14 days with doable challenges to help strengthen and make your relationship even better. And we've also created cheat sheets and workbooks for your relationship, and you can find all of those on our website. And lastly, our Facebook group, which is the Love Tribe. We encourage all of you guys to join our group there as well. And if you ever have any topic suggestions or ideas for the podcast, please send them our way. You can email us at info@idopodcast.com, and we would love to hear from you guys. And we hope you enjoyed today's show.
Was the last night of the year. I saw you saunter by and my mission was clear. I just had to meet that sexy surfer man. Then I thought you might be running with a big bad bunch when I saw your brother reeling from a soccer punch. But I'm pleased to say you're no meaner than a lamb. Chasing away, we'd be chasing away, oh, we'd be chasing away, we'd be chasing away. Whether we dine in Santorini or scour the streets of Venice for some Chinese cuisine, from dawn to dusk with you is a perfect day. And just when I thought I couldn't be more lucky, we made our own perfect little water monkey. Oh, I can't imagine life any other way. I know that we'll just wheel our walkers right out onto our boards. We'll still be chasing waves. Oh, we'll still be chasing waves. Oh, I love chasing waves.